We're going to call to order our special workshop, Thursday, August 7th, 2025, 12 p.m. Declaration of quorum, 7 members present. Welcome, everybody. Although it was fairly easy with the convocation this morning, which was wonderful. Great job, Austin and everybody. So, jump right into item C, hearing of citizens. We've got a few here today. We're going to start with, during this time, we will hear from citizens who registered to speak prior to the meeting in accordance with board operating procedures. The Open Meetings Act prevents us from responding to speakers regarding items not on the agenda. Comments related to items on the agenda may be discussed during deliberations on that specific agenda item. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Those needing an interpreter may have up to 6 minutes. Each person has one opportunity at the microphone regardless of minutes used. Unused minutes may not be accrued by another speaker. The executive assistant will time the comments and alert the president when time has expired. The board asks that those addressing the board refrain from any and all derogatory comments. Our first speaker is Ryan Beasley, and we're going to use this microphone right here.
Thank you. Howdy. I'm here to comment on the agenda item regarding the School Library Advisory Committee. My younger child is a freshman at Consol, and my older child attended CSISD from middle school through high school. We've been very pleased with the variety of literature available at the school libraries, and we believe in the expertise of our school librarians and think that they should continue to lead the collection development, catalog management, and reconsideration process with parental and community input and under board oversight. For many school children, library is a refuge and a special cherished place where they can expand their awareness and discover stories that resonate with their experiences. My concern about a SLAC is based on reports from some schools districts that have been piloting such programs where libraries have been constrained to the degree that some shelves are empty. And multiple reports show that SLAC-controlled school libraries are acquiring many fewer new books, and some stop acquiring new books altogether. I request that you do not establish a SLAC unless it's required. Trust teachers and librarians to understand what is developmentally appropriate for students and school children, instead of giving control to unqualified people that want to enforce their beliefs on others' children. If the SLAC must be formed, I ask its role be limited to what it says in the name, an advisory committee. It is not required to develop lists of materials to purchase, which can remain the job of the librarians. Additionally, if we must have a SLAC, I ask that it be composed of people who feel as I do, that our librarians have been doing a great job, and that our community is stronger if our students and children have a broader exposure to literature. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Lisa Martinez.
Good afternoon. I'm Lisa Martinez, CSISD parent and College Station resident. I respectfully request that the board consider both legally compliant options for implementing SP 13 before making this important decision. Most importantly, just to make sure that we do know and the public knows at large that both options do exist. And even though it is mentioned in the memo that options do exist, the resolution does not leave that open to at least for the parents to follow through on what is legally provided to us as options to follow through with. SLACs are optional. We know this, unless there are 50 parents or 10%, whichever is fewer, that petition to start a SLAC. Completely aware that that does have the caveat that the SLAC will have to be in existence for 3 years once it starts, if we go with the alternative option. But then again, those are choices we make, and we would like to be reafforded that choice as parents to follow through with our legally provided options. The non-slack approach honors our certified, educated, and trained librarians while maintaining your school board authority. Reinstating the non-slack approach for consideration aligns with our district core belief that relationships and communication are driving forces in education and encourages communication opportunities amongst our families, educators, learners, and community members. Also, what was troubling was that the resolution, as shown, was lacking cost analysis and really was more of a trying to make sure we got this in on time, which I do respect. However, it is lacking refinement and really just the overall framing on how we should, as a specific district, not as a general term district in the resolution, should move forward. In addition, why add another layer of this type of thing when by law we do have to follow all of the rules, such as the adoption process, the removal process. With both options, we still will be complying with the law. As citizens of Texas, we're encouraged to stay engaged at the local level, since that's where real change and improvement happens right before our eyes. Let's ensure that our local decisions reflect thoughtful deliberation, respect for our professional expertise, and genuine community input. Both options do comply with state law. Please allow the community, and in this specific instance, the parents of CSISD students.
Thank you. Juliet Cockrell.
Good afternoon. My name is Juliet Cockrell, and I live in Williams Creek Lake Estates. I have a third grade daughter, Naomi, and a kindergarten son, Levi, who attend Pebble Creek Elementary. I'm here to speak in opposition to proposed plans 1 and 5, which would rezone our small neighborhood from Pebble Creek Elementary to Creekview. I know this is a difficult task, and I truly appreciate the work you're doing. I'd like to focus on 2 key concepts: logistics and the minimal impact our neighborhood has on enrollment numbers. First, the logistics. This change would have us driving past Pebble Creek, across Highway 6, and through at least 3 more traffic lights, 2 stop signs, and another school zone just to reach Creekview. I timed this route from our home to Creekview and then to work. It took 40 minutes and added 5 extra miles to my commute compared to our current 5-minute drive to Pebble Creek and an additional 15 minutes to work. Leaving at 7:15 to ensure everyone is on time is just not realistic for my family. Traffic in our area is already difficult. Between Rock Prairie, Barron Road, Victoria, Longmire, and Fitch, morning congestion is heavy. Construction on Rock Prairie East has left our neighborhood with only 1 reliable exit. For families who use the bus, it's even worse. Our kids are currently riding close to 45 minutes. This change could push them to over an hour, which CSISD itself says isn't healthy for elementary age students. Because of our close proximity, many of our parents are actively involved in Pebble Creek. We are PTO board members, room parents, and volunteer on morning dad patrol. With added commute times, that kind of connection becomes nearly impossible. Second, our neighborhood is small. Currently, we have just 25 kids enrolled at Pebble Creek. With only 96 lots, 68 of those have already been developed. We have a total of 15 homes with elementary age children, which account for 22% of our neighborhood. Applying that percentage to future homes would have a minimal effect on additional numbers. Compare that to Southern Point, a rapidly growing community with plans for over 2,000 homes, according to their website. As seen in Plan 4, shifting a portion of Southern Point would offer a greater relief to school capacity. We know that this is complex, but we're not just numbers. We're families and children already rooted in the Pebble Creek community. We ask that you consider the full impact, the long commutes, the disruption to support systems, and the toll on the kids like mine. On a personal note, Naomi has severe anxiety and began special ed testing at the end of the year. She struggles with the smallest amount of change, and moving from Creekview to 4th grade, only to move again in 5th, would be emotionally destabilizing and academically damaging to her. I know she's just one student, but your motto is success. Each life, each day, each hour. We respectfully ask that you either redraw the boundaries to keep our neighborhood zoned to Pebble Creek or to grandfather in our current families. Thank you.
Thank you. Gregory Macon? Not here? He couldn't? Okay. Natalia Goldberg?
Hello, I am a children's book author, and I am a mother of 4 students from elementary to high school in the district. Others have spoken about the high quality of our librarians, and I'm speaking about the SLAC committees. And so others have spoken about the high quality of our libraries and our librarians, our school system, and about the other options available to us that are less burdensome. I would like to talk a little bit about intent versus outcome. So the intent of what have been called by some book banning laws, by others, there are laws to protect children. We're all trying to do the same thing. We're trying to make sure that our kids have access to high quality and appropriate educational materials. And we all want our kids to read, and we don't want them to be on screens as much. And when we put this level of burden on our librarians to be able to acquire the latest Dork Diaries book or the latest Dogman book, the books that our kids are excited about, and they go to the library day after day, and their librarian has not been empowered to make the decision to give her those books because she's waiting on a committee, or she or he is waiting on a committee of parents who may or may not really have the time or the knowledge that the librarians have acquired after years of experience. I just want us to make sure that we don't lose sight of the forest for the trees, and that we make sure that we're not putting up barriers that keep our kids from libraries and from reading, instead of pushing them towards entertaining themselves and educating themselves on phones and screens and outside of the library and outside of the school as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dawn Marshall? No? Dawn Marshall? And Heather Green?
Thank you for the opportunity to share concerns on behalf of Castlegate 1 regarding the intermediate and middle school plans. First, traffic along Victoria is one of the biggest problems that both plans will create. While the board certainly does not determine traffic patterns in any particular neighborhood, the decisions that this board makes do inevitably impact how people naturally move through neighborhoods. It's particularly impactful in Castlegate, where we only have 2 main thoroughfares. One, Castlegate Drive, and secondly, Victoria. And Castlegate Drive feeds into Victoria. Over 800 homes in Castlegate 1 use Castlegate Drive and or Victoria to exit the neighborhood. Current zoning allows intermediate and middle school traffic to flow opposite high school traffic. If Castlegate students are moved, then intermediate and middle school traffic does naturally shift northbound to Victoria and converges with the already paralyzing high school and commuter traffic. Victoria simply cannot sustain the amount of traffic that these plans will generate. The city is aware of this problem, and there are no plans to address it. We anticipate receiving data from the city soon to share with you, but our contact is only now returning from vacation. Second, increased transit time imposes additional negative consequences. One of the biggest hindrances to involvement in PTO and other volunteer opportunities is time. When our school commute time increases significantly, parental involvement will decrease. Our volunteer availability will not remain the same if either plan is enacted. A final issue is that Castlegate is an aging community. The majority of our students are hitting middle school and high school years, and the number of elementary children is declining, as evidenced by the adjustments to the elementary school maps. Consequently, moving our students will serve a temporary, limited purpose. As for solutions, this district policy allows for awareness without action. The school board should pause and make no changes at present to existing boundary lines, since the projected student population remains flat. Moreover, the new state vouchers introduce another major change and an additional unknown. Conversations with area homeschool co-op directors and combing through the data provided by the Texas Homeschool Coalition affirms increasing attrition rates from public schools in our county, and the fact that homeschooling and private school attendance is on the rise. The voucher system will likely only accelerate these trends. Therefore, wisdom would dictate that we pause and first determine the consequences of the voucher system or consider using out-of-district transfers as suggested at the last meeting before making further considerable changes. If you must act, the board should instead consider Mission Ranch or Greens Prairie Reserve since both communities are younger and offer similar socioeconomic demographics to Castlegate. Additionally, both communities have better road infrastructure to alleviate traffic concerns. These communities offer long-term solutions to the board's concerns. Thank you for your consideration. I've made a lot of phone calls. I'm happy to talk to any of you personally or provide a further email to substantiate the data that I referenced. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's it on that we have for hearing of citizens. We're going to move to item D1, consideration, discussion, and possible action related to the district cell phone policy. Ms. Hester, come on up. You didn't bring your award?
Thank you, though. So, good afternoon. Nice to see everybody again. So we're looking at the local policy, FNCE local, and you've received the information where you see what the policy service does for us, what's changed, and obviously there's been lots of conversation about it. But what is most important is how is that we do have to vote on this today because we have to have it in place when school starts. So we're looking for a vote on this today. But this very clearly states that the law that the students cannot have a communication device during the school day. While they can, our recommendation and the recommendation from the law is that they can have them, but they have to be put away. So we're going to look at a couple of things today. Just right now, we're looking at the board policy. You'll see the blue lines, but then the red lines of what's changed. So what we really want to clearly make people understand or help people understand is what the exceptions are, because the law states they can no longer have their cell phone out at school. Okay, but it does allow them to bring it to school, but put away. Some school districts are buying lock bags. Some people are making them check it into a spot, but our recommendation in this policy recommends that they are allowed to have them in their backpack. So that doesn't mean in their pocket, that means in their backpack. So then we also will authorize a district employee to confiscate the communication device, and then it defines a communication device, and then it also talks about what the exceptions will be. And according to the law, we have several exceptions. And one is the student's use is necessary, and there's no other alternative implementation for the student's individual education plans. Those students that have a special education plan, an IEP, or a 504 plan that requires that something on their electronic device is required for them to get the benefit of their education. And then number two is the student's use is required, its use is required to be documented by a qualified physician. So that this is all kind of complicated for the counselors and the people who will be working. We've had lots of opportunities to call 504 meetings and IEP meetings, and we're trying to clarify exactly what use is and to be creative, because it clearly says if there isn't another alternative. So we're working on that. It's going to be a slow process. We can't have we will get 504 plans and IEPs plans where there's a medical need in place as soon as we can, but it might not be the first day of school for some parents, but parents have called, we're calling back and working with them a little bit at a time. So this, annually, the superintendent shall report to the board on the implementation and the compliance of this policy. So we will keep data. So that's what we recommend, and we do need a vote on this. We sent it out earlier, and this is one thing we need a vote on today. Are there any questions?
For the record, you can't get a doctor to say that TikTok is required, right, for part of during the day.
That goes down as they cannot. However, if there was an IEP that said the child had to have TikTok in order to be successful in his academic work, we would have to very carefully consider if there was another alternative way
to provide that for them. So we're not out there to just say no, we're out there to listen to what the educational need is. But thank you, Dr. Payne, for
Well, now,
clarifying
now all
that.
our students are gonna watch board meetings because you gave them a path. Yeah, that, thank you.
Can I ask on that, Chris, do we have any idea how many kids, like, do they currently have using a device in their 504 plan, or is this something that,
Cell phones have been highly used. There is very, a lot of people use them. You know how you can make things bigger, and when people needed bigger print, it's a lot easier to get out your phone and do the bigger print, and they've written that into IEP plans and 504 plans. A lot of them have them to watch their heart for anxiety, to watch their heart rate, and to try to monitor their own heart rate. We have a lot of diabetic kids in the district, and they have a glucometer that's connected to the nurse, so it specifically says in the law that if there's a medical need and the diabetes, the kids monitoring their own diabetics, they really have a connection with the nurse, and that's a real, very important need that we will honor. And obviously, they already turn in plans for that, but there are lots of them used for lots of different reasons. And
some very legitimate? is
some
what you're
very
saying. Yeah,
legitimate,
yeah.
and that's why we have to go slow. People want us to hurry, but we can't hurry because we want to treat every need individually and carefully.
I see another change is we're not charging a fine if we do confiscate the phone, right?
That we are not charging a fine. When we get to the code of conduct, you'll see the whole plan and our discipline plan. And no, we are not, and we are no longer, in the old days, before we encouraged everybody to bring their phone, we took them up and charged a fine, but that is not allowed in the law anymore.
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
I still got questions. I know it's rare.
You've got a matrix that Jeff's looking at and
Yeah.
stack of paperwork.
Y'all
That's
seen that? Okay, just making sure y'all
the
saw that.
internal document that our administrators will work off of on how they handle an infraction with a phone first, second, or third time, elementary, intermediate, middle, and high school.
So I know last meeting, we talked a whole lot about personal communication devices and what those were classified as, cell phones, smartwatches, things like that. Do the earbuds, all that fall into it?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I want to make sure everybody is on and aware of, that this, I'm just telling you.
Smart
I've talked-
rings, too.
I've talked to high school students since all this came out. They're gonna find a loophole.
Oh, they are. They're smarter than me.
I had one tell me they're gonna bring a phone and plug it in, and I said, "You've never used that phone. I bet you don't even know how to plug it in." And they laughed at me, but they're gonna find a loophole. And I'm just saying that I want to make sure we're as direct, because, and it's not that I want to make sure, oh, we're telling them, hey, you can't do this. It's a state law. We don't get a choice in this.
We didn't decide this.
100%.
Right.
And so that's what I'm concerned about, is that everybody understands that this is phones, earbuds, anything like that that can be connected to that phone and used for communication. That's where our hands are tied. We can't do anything about it. So,
There are more and more games out that look like a game and look like just the game that you bought for your kid and it wasn't connected to a watch or a computer or something. Somehow, we're understanding some of those end up talking to computers that they weren't designed for, but the kids are smart enough to figure out how to make it do that.
gotcha.
So it says, you know, prohibited devices include cell phones, two-way radios, smartwatches, smart glasses. You know, they have these glasses that are smart too.
Right.
Smart rings, non-CSISD tablets and iPads. Okay, any gaming device with messaging and internet capacity, because that's where we get lost in the weeds.
Right.
Okay, headphones, earbuds, and any other Bluetooth audio device, any personal communication device that is not used by CSISD.
And that's the-
Issued by CSISD.
Right, and that's the other piece, because, you know, the repercussions of it as far as the consequences and things like that, we have to put those in place, or it's just gonna be running wild kind of thing. And so that's the only way we can actually navigate this whole thing, and it's gonna be a struggle. I know y'all have talked to campus principals and things like that, just to how to navigate that here in the beginning, but, it is what it is, and we gotta deal with it. And I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that it's gonna be a slippery slope to start out. But it's not the district saying, we don't want you to have your device, we don't want this. It's something that we have to abide by, and we were told, and we just got to figure out how to put that into motion, so.
And the principals have met a lot together so that we can be consistent as we work through the first time it's confiscated, the second time. And you'll see that when we get to the, well, you'll see it on that, but it's also laid out in the code of conduct, which you'll vote on next.
That's where a lot of the details are, like even you're talking about, well, in the next item, right, is the code of
Yes.
conduct. Kind of- I'll go ahead and ask it now, but it's kind of on that, because that list of the devices in the code of conduct, so following up on what you're saying, Jeff, one I was a little unclear of, what if somebody brings their own laptop? And I know most of those are not
No, that's
on,
what she said she said.
but
you
that's
can't-
not on
Has
the
to be
list.
a-
in
No,
the
No,
it
it
says
says
district issued,
a
has to be a
district-
district issued,
Has to be a district issued device.
and that's not district.
So just to be clear, right, we list iPad, we list phones, we list rings, we don't specifically list laptops. So I just wanted to, that was the one that,
I think
we
it was
just-
it not being a district issued.
I just want to make
That-
sure that
that's
was
the
clear,
section.
right,
I'm with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, people will question that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there may, at some point in some time, if there's a medical or educational need that we think they need a device and we don't have one available, we've already talked about how we'll figure out, almost every classroom has a cow where there's something available, so we're working through that carefully.
I think something else that came up was obviously the P3 reporting system and all that. Some kids use their phone, this and that. It's on all the devices in the district now. So you can do it then. And then obviously after school hours, you'll be back on your phone and you'll have access to it there as well.
Yes.
So
We specifically went back and put the anonymous reporting device on all district devices, so kids would have access when they needed it.
how about Schoology and things like that kids are used to using?
They're already on the website.
So, yeah, they can
the website.
access them on a school device if they
Correct.
need to. I mean,
Yeah, another thing too is we've got to be compliant with the law, but we'll have a whole bunch of things thrown at us the first 6 weeks of school that are going to be potentially gray areas that we'll have to work through. We have to be compliant with the law, but we can also be more restrictive than the law says. So you had that, I mean, there's been districts that had cell phone policies put in place long before this law was passed. In the research that we did before we did the parent survey and stuff last year, the districts that had a lot of success with cell phone banning, it was very black and white, cut and dry. You didn't have your cell phones. And their data showed it was extremely successful. When you tried to phase in, well, we'll allow you here, allow you there, it was not very successful. This one's pretty black and white coming from where it is, but with individual students and potential needs, as Dr. Payne asked, we get, doctors will write notes for anything. And we met face to face with all of our counselors, all of our nurses, just so we all delivered the same message. On Tuesday, is a doctor's note is a recommendation. We take that into play in a 504 or IEP meeting with an ARD committee, and then make a decision that we feel like was best for the child. But Chrissy also pointed out if there's no other alternative implementation. So we may have other devices or things that are district issued that could be an alternative to the parent or child's request, but it may not be a cell phone. And so if there's an alternative, that would be the direction we would go. So it'll be a challenging 6 weeks to work through a lot, but I really think probably more at the high school level. We've had very little issues of any elementary, intermediate, even our middle schools have been good. So the high school probably the biggest challenge. The other big challenge with the discipline side of things are kids refusing to give the device. That's going to be the big one,
gonna be our biggest.
and we'll work through that as district administrators. We'll treat that as an insubordination infraction, and then progress through that matrix along with parent contacts. We've made that very adamant. We want to contact parents so parents are aware if we're having issues with cell phone with a child to try to help us figure out how we're going to make this work. So we can have them in the classroom doing what they need to do.
Well, and I think there are really two questions that I keep getting from the community that maybe just from an information perspective might be good to say out loud in this meeting. One of them is, and I feel like the wording, and maybe that's in our code of conduct is going to be that they need to be from the time they arrive at campus until the end of day. So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're asking them from the time they get out and come into the building until the last bell rings. That's the time period we're talking about. Is that correct?
That is correct. That was a big debate because sometimes in the morning they gather in the cafeteria, but once they walk in the building, it needs to be put away. That needs to be consistent, and that's going to be a hard one. And if we can get that enforced, we hope that will help ease us in, because that is very clear. And as soon as, and we know they needed to walk home, we know the elementary level parents want to track their kid on their watch walking home, and that's very important. When they walk out of that building, they can put that watch on and track them going home, so, and going to school. So, you know, we're working on any of those concerns to make sure we're listening to the concern, and is there an alternative other than the phone, and then figure out how to do it from there. So thank you for pointing that out.
And,
That's
and the
important.
second question I have, you already alluded to, but I have a lot of questions about, well, if, you know, what devices are our students going to be able to use for their work that has been on devices in the past? And so, but you alluded to it, we've got laptops that we've been deploying to our campuses. And so we
That
should
should
feel
not be
like
an
our
issue.
core
We
classes
have-
should
yeah.
have devices for them to use. Yes.
And we're
We're
about to
buying some
purchase a
more
whole
today.
bunch more.
We're
so.
about to, it's on the agenda today, yes. But I just,
Hopefully, if you vote on, if you vote on it, if you vote yes. Excuse me.
but I think it's important to say, we have been deploying a lot of laptops and devices into our campuses over the last couple of years, and so they should be there.
Yes, thank you.
Just one other thing to pile on with some of the other conversation. I know this is a work in progress, but if y'all could just be as consistent as possible with the language, because even, and I know part of this is due to what the law is called and so forth, but you know, there's some places in our documents that just refer to cell phones, and there's others that are communication devices and so forth. And so I think the more, you know, we might want to consider getting rid of the term cell phone and replace it with communication devices. That might be helpful.
I'll make a note of that, and I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, okay.
All right, we've got a motion by Dr. Payne, second by Ms. Simmons. Any further discussion?
I was gonna say, there is a benefit we haven't considered, is that high school kids may wanna start learning Morse code and take up ham radios. I mean, they're smart and they can figure it out, so we got a learning
It's
opportunity
the
here.
loophole, man.
Yep.
That's the loophole I'm talking about, so.
No two-way radios,
Oh,
very specific. So you go ahead and come teach Morse code and see how successful you are.
I think the bigger question is they're going to have to learn how to read a clock. They're all used to the
That
digital world.
is a
So
big question.
there you go.
Or like some people, not necessarily me, did in Mr. Mertink's 8th grade chemistry class, maybe 9th grade, sign language.
Oh, well, they got a lot of that going on already.
Yeah.
No, we're joking a little bit, but I think, and the state is making us do this, but I mean, I'm happy to say, I think there are going to be some benefits too, right? And I think there's some data that shows there's evidence, you know, research. And also when we really heard from our teachers, I think we've heard that it's going to be a benefit in our classroom as well. So I know it's going to be a hard transition, but I think the consistency is important. And like you said too, Dr. Harkrader. So I think there are going to be a lot of positives, and I think we should look forward to some of those as well, even though it'll be hard.
I agree. It's going to be hard, but we can do it with consistency.
All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Brings us to item 2, consideration, discussion, and possible action related to the student code of conduct. Ms. Hester.
Okay, every year the board adopts the student code of conduct. We also have a student handbook. It's not completed yet. It's got a lot of things that we have to do that aren't complete yet, and we're still getting things from the board, but it doesn't get voted on. Student code of conduct gets voted on. I'm gonna go over quickly. I think Austin handed you out some of the changes that I kind of want to highlight, but there are a lot of changes in House Bill 6 that are in the code of conduct. And if you'll look in the code of conduct, pages 8 through 10, I think, is what we designed, what we laid out for the discipline part of the cell phone. So you can kind of breathe through that. Starts on page 9 and goes 8, 9, and 10. And you can see at what level and how compliance and that kind of thing. So you can see that clearly. But that is part of the code of conduct, so you're voting on that as well. But some of the bigger changes that I just want to point out so you will be aware. For several years, we've had a CBC, which is a big campus behavior coordinator at every campus, but now they're asking us to designate one individual, to have that individual be where we've just been saying the principals. And so they want that, and they want that posted. Some of our in-school suspension and out-of-school suspensions have changed, actually pretty big. There is no limit on ISS days, but still 3-day limit on OSS. So that's kind of an interesting change, and we will work through that very carefully. What comes along with that it also gives parents an opportunity to talk to the principals if they do not have the availability to provide adequate supervision of the student during the out-of-school suspension days. They can ask for it to be transferred to in-school suspension days. There's also supposed to be a teacher committee for a refusal of a student in class. It will be a committee that has 2 teachers that are selected by staff and 1 alternate, 1 professional staff member that would be appointed by the principal, and then this group of people must develop a return to class plan. If I say Darren has to be kicked out of my class because he's been acting bad, then this committee will have to look at what I'm saying and why, and make a decision about what a return to class plan is. In developing that plan, TEA is supposed to come out with a model for developing that plan. It hasn't come yet. There's supposed to be some forms. Those haven't come yet, but they're coming. The teacher who has asked the student to be removed must be a part of developing the plan, but they can refuse to have the student until that plan is made. What's also new is a student can now be removed for a single incident, behavior that repeatedly interferes with a teacher's ability to communicate with students or the ability of the student's classmates to learn. If they're unruly, disruptive, abusive toward the teacher, another adult, or another student, or meets the definition of bullying. So that's pretty, the single incident is new for us. Usually you had to keep a log of it and address it individually, so that's going to be new. No longer is there a requirement of documentation for the student's conduct or interventions. Once removed, the student cannot be removed to class without the teacher's written consent and the return of class plan. They don't have to agree to return to the return of class plan, but they have to be part of developing it. So, okay, then there's a new, in the past we've been opting in if we were doing any human sexuality instruction. Now we've moved to an opt-out plan. So we're still working on forms for that. We're working on a process to have a bullying log for each campus so we can kind of keep track of any of that. New, and this is a big change for us, no clubs can be based on race, culture, sexual preferences, or anti-Semitism. So that's new, and also in order to be in a club, no matter what club it is, you have to have written parent permission to be part of any student organization. So that's new, and that we can do that. We're working on a form for that. They're supposed to give us some. We must, and the new change from the law for reporting child abuse must be reported in 24 hours rather than 48 hours. Then a lot of religions have a time of year where they have to pray at certain times, and we've given people permission to do that. And now they have to work through with, it can only be written parent permission. They can only do it up to 5 hours per week. The student is responsible for makeup, and parents were responsible for any transportation. So that's gotten real specific. In kindergarten through 2nd grade, out-of-school suspension can only be done if it includes conduct that threatens immediate health or safety of other students in the classroom, documented, and conduct that results in repeated and significant disruption to the classroom. And not below, that's for kids grade K through 2, because normally we don't send any of kids that young to DAP or OSS. So unless the threat is immediate or safety for it concerns safety for the students in the classroom, and documented conduct that results repeated significant disruption to the classroom instruction. And then there's some more issues on the vaping. The mandatory, we used last year or for the past couple of years, if they were caught vaping, it was a mandatory DAP placement for 15 days, and that has changed now. Students who use or possess vapes keeps that mandatory, but the placement, this is very confusing. Okay. The placement, if a student sells, gives, or delivers a vape to another person, that's mandatory. But they can still be placed in the DAP, but the first offense, and then they can be placed in the ISS for 10 days. It's all written in there. So those are lots of them. We've gone over the staff with it, and the assistant principals and the principals are all aware of it. a lot of changes, but we can do it.
And those are from the state, from the late,
These are all
last
from the state.
legislative session.
These are all handed to us.
This is probably the most legislation affecting a single school year than I can remember in my entire career. We're doing everything we can to try to keep up with everything and to make sure the information's out there, because there are so many changes. You know, I wish at times when they would have some of these ideas, you know, give us a year to phase some of this stuff in, but you just finish a session and then, hey, ready, set, go, and in 8 weeks, you guys start school, figure it all out. And TEA cannot get out guidance quick enough. You know, half of these things we don't have any guidance on. There's a law. We're trying to interpret it the best we can, so it's a little frustrating. One other thing on the child abuse, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, besides the 48 hours, now it's 24 hours to report. We also have to report on any allegation with no evidence. So if we just have a random phone call that claims somebody's abusing their child and hangs up, as this law is written, we're supposed to call CPS. I've got a lot of concerns about that,
24 hours.
but that was a major change that it's just kind of difficult for me to understand that, but that's where we are. And law enforcement must be contacted. 100%, obviously, we have an allegation, we have, you know, data that supports, or we think it does, but with absolutely no documentation at all, just an allegation, that's the steps we have to take now.
So we do need a vote on this.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Payne, second by Ms. Wilson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Sorry, I'm going back to the cell phone part, because we didn't talk a lot more about this here, right? Because that's there's a big chunk of the specifics of the changes are in the cell phone, are in the code of conduct, sorry, right? I mean, I think we should consider putting the word laptop in there. I don't know if you have that, pull it up in front of you, but it does say, sorry, I'm trying to get it in front of me. Moving around. You know, it says just iPads or, sorry, I can't get to it now.
I think the last piece, the bullet point that says any personal communication device not issued by CSISD
And I think
would cover that, because it can be classified as a personal communication device.
and I guess my question in my mind, will people really think of a laptop as a personal communication device? To me, I think people could interpret that differently, right? That's it's just for clarity, because I can see people that maybe we just need to make, at a minimum, we need to put it in our communication that that's what we're talking about. But if you all feel confident that that's clear enough, then that's.
Austin, not to put you on the spot, is that something we can put, i.e. laptops, like in any kind of communications? Then I think if we're good with that. Unless we need to come back. I mean, we gotta approve
We got to prove something. I
that,
know
but
it's,
then
I know,
if we've gotta come back, we can amend it, I guess, but
because we have the bullet that says non-CSISD tablets and iPads.
right, but that's what I was saying, the last bullet point there.
Any personal communication device not issued by CSISD. If y'all think it's clear, I just want to point out, to me, it was that was the one piece that was a little fuzzy in it, so.
I mean, a laptop can be classified as a device, can be classified as personal, and it can be classified as a communication.
I agree that it fits under there, I do.
Well, I guess that would be my justification.
Josh, got a take on this?
So the motion's already been made to adopt.
Motion's already been made, we hadn't voted, but
And I would move, and procedurally, correct me if I'm wrong, to amend the proposed, or amend the motion to include in the descriptor laptops.
And I'd
So-
second it.
So I think we'd vote on that and then vote on the actual motion. I'm like, if one of us has concerns about the way the language reads, then there's probably no harm, no foul in clarifying that.
I think you should include laptop and computer, because some computers are tiny and they could bring a computer and hook it up to a school monitor. So if we're gonna go the laptop, I think you need to say
Computer
personal
as well.
computing device. I don't know.
Personal computing device.
So let me ask you this. Anybody that's had to already, these student code of conduct, do they have to go through an approval process with the students, parents, before they come to class on next Wednesday?
No,
No? It's just there for public record?
yes.
So
And I
there's
will
no-
tell you, yeah,
Nothing of acceptance of the student code of conduct?
right.
From them?
And I don't have a problem. We can adjust whatever you guys would like to, but please understand too, that someone will point, there's going to be something else that's not in it. We can't write it as is. That's why I think Jeff's bullet point on non-issue district, that catches everything potentially that may pop up that wasn't particularly worded that way. But we can adjust whatever you'd like to do. It's not a problem.
I think though, when people see personal communication device, I don't think they're thinking about computers. I mean, I do see where there
So-
could be a little bit of.
So is the
language.
motion to basically take that third bullet point, and I'm sorry to all those that were watching this on here, and we're just talking freely on this, but in the student code of conduct, third bullet point says non-CSISD tablets and iPads. We need to, in my understanding, the motion is to add personal computers, personal laptops to that bullet point? Or are
Yeah.
we adding a totally new bullet?
No, just add it to that bullet point.
Chris, you get that?
I got it. It hasn't gone to print, obviously, because you guys would have voted.
I know,
first.
yeah, I knew
We
that,
don't,
but
we're
I didn't
not
know
gonna
if we
print
had.
very many
Right, I knew
unless
we
a
didn't
parent
print.
asks for it.
Yeah,
So-
I just wanted to
and
make
we
sure.
haven't linked it, so
Right.
parents, yeah.
Didn't want to ask that question, so I'm glad you.
No, that's where I was going on the approval,
This
but I
has
didn't
been
want
the,
to go
I'm
on
a
the
paper
print
girl,
side.
and
I
I'm
was like,
having
there's no way.
to let go of this, but
Exactly.
we usually print a whole lot of them and hand them out, but now
Right.
we're only printing them if they request it.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Ben, seconded by Ms. McAdams, and that was in regards to bullet point 3, page 8, under possession of personal communications or other electronic devices. On the first bullet point, to add prohibited devices include bullet point 3, non-CSISD tablets, iPads, personal computers, and personal laptops.
got it.
Good? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0 there. I'm gonna call for a new motion since we've amended that. So I know I had Payne and Wilson. If y'all wanna that's y'all's call. Okay. So we had a motion by Dr. Payne, second by Ms. Wilson, to approve the student code of conduct. Any further questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right. Good to go? Cool.
Got it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep. D3, resolution establishing a school library advisory committee. Ms. Hester.
Okay, so I am the one doing all of this stuff. The law came out very fast. I was worried about getting the things that I needed to on this board agenda before we started school, so parents could register and know what they were voting on, signing off on when they registered their student. So I spent a lot of time working on the discipline. I didn't spend as much time on understanding the requirements of the SLAC and ask for you all to look at the resolution to go ahead and do the SLAC. I then had time to meet with librarians. We also had time to talk to other school districts and to our TASB people, and I am taking that off the vote. I don't want that voted on. I don't even want to vote on that. We have till September 1st to put Senate Bill 13 in place. What's interesting, what I'm learning after lots of reading, is that House Bill 900 from the last legislative session covers so much of this, and we're already, librarians are doing a very good job of selecting books and keeping books that people's reading level and interest level and ethnically and all diversity that everybody can have. And we work very closely with our Follett representative who came to once I got the discipline in place, because we had to vote on that today, I got all the librarians together and we had lots of conversation about what we needed to do and what we didn't need to do. And I am taking that off the table, and I have sent in the night, I think Austin sent to you option 1 and option 2. Option 1, the only thing that's changed in the law on that board policy, EFB, is that the board now has a right to vote on the changes when people add a book to the library, delete a book to the library, or order books for their whole collection. And so that's what's new on that policy. And you'll see that when I printed the red and blue line so you can see the changes. But option one leaves it to where there is no slack. The librarians don't want to slack. We want to be able to do the work that they've been able to do all along, and they're very good at it. And the Follette and Destiny computer programs are very good. They can now, if Jeff's daughter checks out a library book, the parent can immediately get an email that says this is what they just checked out. And so we're going to enhance our communication with the help of these programs, but our desire is for you all to look carefully at option one and look carefully at option two. We do not have to vote on this till the August 19th board meeting. We do need it before September 1st, but I don't want to have any vote today. I needed to step back and take more time before I move forward. I appreciate that the librarians helped me do that, and the community members, obviously. And so, again, you have the two different board policies that I've worked with TASB on, and when we vote, it will be on the agenda for the 19th. I've spent lots of time reading this, lots of time connecting it, how it walks through House Bill 900 too from the past legislative sessions, and the librarians are all doing an excellent job looking at what they do and how these computer systems are going to help them communicate if anybody has any concern. So I feel very comfortable about that, and I apologize for my rush to get things, you know, you got this one board meeting, you want to get everything done because it's got to be done by September 1st. So I do apologize for that, but I think if we will take the time to step back on this, it's very important, and look at option one and option two, and we'll ask for a vote on that at the August
Yeah,
board meeting.
we weren't supposed to vote today anyway. This is just an introduction of what it is, what it's about. Chrissy went through, you got a couple of different options to think about. If you decided you didn't want to form a SLAC, that's perfectly fine. However, if 50 or more people came forward, or 10% of your student population, whichever's less, for us, obviously 50 or more people, then one would have to be formed. Even if one was formed, it still does not take any away from the duties of what our librarians do. The SLAC operates kind of like a DEIC. They make recommendations. The board can take the recommendations. The board doesn't have to take the recommendations. But that committee would also not replace librarians, their expertise, what they would like to do, what they recommend to do. Even if you had librarians that didn't agree with what a SLAC committee wanted, SLAC's only giving you a recommendation. You don't have to take that recommendation. So a lot of districts, or you got to approve the policy. That'll be done on the 19th. You can take additional action or not. Sit back. A lot of districts are just going to kind of wait and see how things are going. Chrissy's first thought was we would get ahead and form a SLAC from a standpoint of we don't want to wait for 50 people upset, show up and make a big deal. But totally, you guys, your call. You've got two options. You've got some reading material, and then we'll have that discussion on the 19th. And we can discuss now too if you got questions now.
Well, and one of the issues with that resolution to develop a SLAC by you all, it has to be done, that resolution has to take place before you decide on option one or two. So if you're going to have that resolution, it has to be done prior to whether you vote on option one or two. Is that clear?
So let me ask you, if, how I understood it, if I'm wrong, that's fine, but SB 13 was, board had to take action whether or not yay or nay to establish a SLAC. Is that, they just had to take action of yes or no if they're gonna establish a SLAC committee, council? Yes?
Senate Bill 13, the biggest change in policy FEFB is that either way, whether we have a SLAC or we don't have a SLAC, the board now is required to vote on when we purchase books,
Right.
or when we delete books, or when we add books to a teacher's classroom even for their library, the board now will vote on that. In the past, we've purchased our books every spring. When we have it,
Gotcha.
we send it to purchasing, and we get them, okay? But now the board has to vote, period. Okay, option one and option two. Option one is that's just the board
That's how we're
votes.
gonna- okay.
Option two is the board,
committee.
this is what it would be like if you had the SLAC committee.
Okay.
Therefore, that's why you have to do this resolution to have the SLAC in place if you're gonna go with option 2.
But
So
it sounds like based on the law, whether, let's say we go option 1, if 50 parents show up,
then we'll have to have
we don't
one.
have a choice.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
And that was my original thinking.
Right.
And in talking to some other people in charge of librarians, is that, oh, let's get out in front of that. Let's get that ahead so we don't want somebody, a big committee to start wanting to ban a book and a bunch of angry people
Sure.
then want to be on the Slack. We want the people that are involved in this to be making decisions about all kids and all books, and with an objective mind, not when they're heated over a controversial issue.
Okay.
So my other question about this, and you already answered part of it, to be clear that we're going to have to approve as a board the procurement of books now.
And that's big. We've not done that
Right,
before.
that's big. And also there is like a 30-day waiting period
Yes.
where we have to allow for public feedback
Yes.
and stuff like
Mhm.
that? Okay.
And have a display and that kind of thing. Almost like textbooks, okay? Very
Okay.
similar to textbooks.
So the difference, though, to be really clear, is whether that list comes directly to us or whether, from librarians, or whether that list is going through a committee process first.
Yes. And the librarians prefer, I mean, yeah, I've been here 45 years, obviously. And I can remember 3 books, I can tell you the name of them, that we've had a big controversy about. So it's not like this community is real controversial on our books. So we just don't want it to be, we want our children to have what they need.
That's what I was going to ask. We don't have issues right now. This is all coming from the state. I want people to understand that. It's not any of us trying to say our librarians aren't doing a great job, because we have some amazing
No,
librarians.
we do. We
Yeah,
are
and
very
so
lucky with our librarians.
Yeah, so I'd say along those same lines, right, if it's not broke, why do we need to change it? Because
Well, and we have to change it in a hurry.
Well,
That's what's the
besides
other
this, yeah.
frustrating thing. So I apologize.
But I mean,
Another-
I agree with the input from many of the speakers tonight today, sorry, we're in the middle of the day, that our librarians are the experts, and they have been doing a good job of
And they take
putting
it
the
very
right
seriously.
books in front of kids, that, that they.
And they have
wanna-
lots of tools to look at the things that they order,
And we have tools, like you mentioned, that let the parents now be more involved and engaged too, because obviously they should have a say in it, as well, but they do. That's the thing, we have processes for that.
And Kimberly, I agree with you, but make it very clear, this legislation was not written because legislators viewed librarians in that capacity. It was written to create discord in communities and take rights away from librarians and others of what's going on, to create a controversy about library books that's a figment of their imagination.
Correct, and with a lot of these things, the responsibility still falls to the parents. We have a no book ban policy, correct? We don't ban any books in the.
We don't ban any books.
Right, so it still falls to the parent to make those decisions. Because the author who spoke earlier, we want to engage kids, we want them to read, and again, if you've been paying attention, public education in this state continues to be under attack for things that aren't necessarily problems. So, yeah, my wife started as a paraprofessional in the library, and they do a great job of engaging our kids, and I want them to continue to be able to do that.
And they love their jobs. Those librarians love their jobs, and they love books.
And I just also want to say thank you, Chrissy, for coming back and explaining why you're stepping back on this, and we're going to wait, have another option. Yeah, it was just, anyway. But, and also that, like you said, you guys have been scrambling, everybody in the administration this summer, to keep up with everything that's come down from
In the
state.
past, they've given us a semester or a year to implement all the stuff that they've done, and this year it was September 1st, and I'm going, oh my gosh, okay.
Some of them are up for reelection, I'm sure,
Good point.
possibly. All right, any other questions? Perfect. Thank you, Chrissy.
Thank you.
Item 4, consideration discussion of possible action related to the purchase of laptops. Shocker, we're going to that.
Mr. Horak, Dr. Harkrider, members of the board, thank you for, letting me come and beg for more computers. And it's kind of fortuitous that we have the cell phone ban that's also coming too. So this will take care of two birds with one stone, hopefully. So as you remember, 2023 bond, we are putting classrooms in every core classroom, carts in every core classroom. And so we have that done. Now we're into the replenishing, refreshing, and making sure our devices are up to snuff. So we are essentially at a 1-to-1 ratio, if you want to know that. So parents that are out there worried about their kids won't have devices in the classrooms, we've got you covered. There are some holes in some of the specialty classes that we're fitting with, but this is going to give us the benefit of, we've got 1,300 computers that I'm asking you to approve. And for those holes that we need to fill in, we will have devices to fill in. We are benefiting on this purchase. Another district in Florida promised to buy a lot of devices, and then they backed out. HB approached us and said, hey, this exact computer that you're using, we can give it to you at $100 off per device. So 1,300 devices, $130,000 savings. We figured we'd want to go ahead and go do it. We were going to do this in the end of the fall. We're going to do it now. So that's why we're approaching you, and hopefully you will approve the purchase of 1,300 HP laptop computers from Avanex, or HP laptops from Avanex.
Motion approved as presented.
So I gotta ask, at $100 off, how many more computers are we gonna have to buy this year? Any? Are we gonna be good?
Hopefully this year we'll be good.
We'll
but
be good? Okay.
This school year.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
The school year now, in December, we'll probably come at you for more.
Okay, no worries.
But we have the bond funds to cover that, and we will take these
For that,
savings
yeah.
and apply them back into it. Yes, sir.
All right.
And just to clarify, this is off of our latest bond.
Yes, ma'am. This is 2023 bond funds, and this is what it was meant to do. And luckily we have it here to do it.
I want to thank that Florida School District for backing out. Much appreciated.
Yes.
So, motion by Dr. Payne, second by Mr. Ben. Any further questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Hutchinson. You still here for number 5, consideration, discussion, possible action related to a technology title change.
Yes, we unfortunately had a vacancy come onto our table, and now was the time to look at it, and it was a programming 1 position, and we analyzed our needs, and we said we really need to have a system administrator. We're short in that area. So that programmer 1 position was created 10 years ago to do web development and things like that. We've moved in a total different direction. A lot of it is Google Apps. A lot of it is, AD configuration, Apple, monitoring, management, and things like that. So now we approach you for your approval to change that position title from a programmer 1 to a system administrator. And if there's any questions on that.
So moved.
Second.
You already got it filled?
Not yet.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Ben, second by Dr. Payne. Any further question? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item 6, consideration, discussion, possible action related to a change order for the Anum Consolidated High School roof. Mr. Buckner. I didn't know there was construction going on over there. All the cones I dodged.
Yes, there's construction everywhere.
By the way, there's a metal pole leaning into one of those lanes that almost took my mirror out. But that's not y'all's problem. That's city. Just
Okay,
letting you
good.
know.
Well, it'll probably become my problem, so
It's all right.
go ahead and get it addressed. So this is as y'all are aware, Anum Consolidated High School is getting a roof replaced. It is, we are probably around 90% tear off complete. The goal is still to have 100% tear off done before start of school next Wednesday. Doesn't mean the roof is finished, but all the loud and noisy and dirty part of tear off will be complete before then. Skylights are currently being installed as well. So all of the worst portions of the roof replacement are soon to be behind us. However, there is a portion of this roof that was intentionally left out of this project when we originally bid this project. There is a portion of it that is kind of a swimming pool type area. It has a lot of chill water lines, a lot of our hot water lines going through it, as well as one of the main electrical distribution panels is on the top of that roof. In order to meet code, all of that has to be raised. Water lines, chill water lines, all those are simple. It's the electrical distribution that was very difficult There was not enough time to get a MEP engineer involved and get this roof moving forward. And also, I did not want a roofing contractor taking the lead on moving an electrical line as well. So Duratech Construction, who is doing the renovation, they are responsible for moving this electrical distribution. And now we have the number from the roofing contractor to replace the roof in that area. That change order is in the amount of $345,400. So, and they can get moving on that as soon as they get the rest of this tear off done. It is a very small portion, but it will probably take one of the longer areas because of the mess of equipment and everything that is in that area.
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Payne, second by Ms. Simmons. Any questions? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Carried 7-0. Number 7 is consideration, discussion, and possible action related to the correction to the Rockbury Elementary School and College Station High School contract with remodel.
Yes, so this one was my error when this was presented originally. There was a credit. I went back and watched that video multiple times to see what all was stated. There was a credit that we are receiving on that project. I took that credit prior to the and put it into the board memo and board notes for that, and that GMP was approved with that credit. However, that credit will be assigned after the contract was issued, so the contract is correct. It was just the amount that was stated in that board meeting that day was incorrect. So that credit that we will get back is $145,576. So it does take the GMP that was approved of $56,850,715 to the $56,996,291. We are getting the credit. It just comes on the back end of the project instead of the front end when I originally brought this to the board for approval.
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Payne, second by Ms. Eady. Any questions? All those in favor say aye. 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 All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Buckner. Consideration, discussion, and possible approval of donations. Ms. Wilson.
Dr. Harkrider, Mr. Horick, members of the board. When we were reviewing board policy CDC local, we noticed that some of our donations should be brought to the board. So that's what we want to do today, is just kind of start the process, go through that. Basically, any unsolicited donation does not have to have board approval. That is actually delegated to the superintendent for approval. It's all the other ones. So if someone gives us a donation and it has strings attached in a sense, then we need to take that for the board for approval, as well as real property. So what I have today is just bringing you some real property. We have Miss Ellen Wilcox wanting to donate Myler dance flooring. It's estimated cost about $15,000, and she's wanting to donate it to the College Station ISD dance team. And so I'm bringing that to your approval.
In appreciation for that donation. Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Payne, second by Ms. Wilson. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We'd like to thank Ms. Wilcox. That's awesome. Thank you for doing that. Haven't ever had to do one of those in here, so that's awesome.
Only that one big one that went,
Yeah,
right?
that big one that we had, yeah.
Yeah, we'll have those brought to the board each month, and then we'll kind of put them as consent agenda items, but you'll at least get to see what our community is donating.
We'll just let people know we're happy to approve them.
No doubt.
Almost all the time.
Brings to item 9, discussion of school boundaries. Ms. Wilson.
Okay, so we did meet with you July 15th and kind of discuss the boundaries as well as the survey results. We're coming back today with just a few tweaks to those based on what we heard as your feedback. And we're looking for additional feedback from you guys and directions for future adjustments so that we could possibly bring that back to the board on the 19th. So when we look at all the plans and listen to the feedback, one of the strongest plans moving forward would be Plan 5. However, with Plan 5, listening to your feedback and some of the community feedback, we understand that there could be some adjustments to this plan that would make it a little bit more successful. So I'm going to go over Plan 5 real quick, but then I'm also going to kind of talk about some of the adjustments when we get through. Okay, so Plan 5, if you can look at it, it balances out our students going forward really well. However, there could be some adjustments. With Plan 5, this current area that you're looking at that goes to College Hills and to South Knoll Elementary is currently students that are at Pebble Creek Elementary School. Those students would move back to those neighborhood campuses. And I think that's something the board said earlier, is to try to keep the neighborhood campuses intact, as well as don't drive past another elementary campus to get to a different campus. In addition, there's this little area here, which is Southern Trace Drive area, that would be moving into River Bend to free up space at Spring Creek Elementary School. There's a small area here called Castle Rock area. That area would move into Forest Ridge Elementary. Of course, there's two big sections here that would move into Rock Prairie. Rock Prairie is currently in renovations. They're going to gain additional classrooms, but their area that they currently serve is kind of aging out, and so we need to look at expanding their boundaries. Creekview Elementary is another area that is kind of aging out in the sense that they have low numbers and we need to expand their boundaries as well. That kind of reached over in those two areas that you see on the screen that are in purple. Another one that Creekview reached across Highway 6, picked up the Mission Midtown Reserve area, as well as that area that you see that is east of Rock Prairie Road and William Fitch. And then to free up additional space at Pebble Creek, we were looking at the area that extends across Highway 6 that includes that South Peach Creek cut off road, then east of Peach Creek Road there. That area would move to Forest Ridge, currently at Pebble Creek. So this is some of the feedback that we received from you all on the July board meeting, just preserve that community cohesion, ensure that students attend the campus closest to their home without passing other schools unnecessarily, keep neighborhoods intact, avoid dividing neighborhoods across multiple campuses, prioritize transportation and logistics, and I did spend some time with the transportation department just to make sure there's something that we're not doing here that could cause undue hardship to them. Account for safe, efficient travel to and from schools for all students, balance enrollment across campuses to distribute students evenly between intermediate and middle schools to maximum access to academic and extracurricular opportunities, protect Title I funding. And so we're going to talk a little bit about Title I funding and how some of these boundary adjustments could affect that, and then address economically disparities. So be mindful of the economically disadvantaged student populations within those intermediate and middle school zones. So I do want to point out this because I think this has been a topic in past, from what I understand. I'm sorry that I am fairly new to the district, and so I didn't know some of the history here. So basically you're looking at the blue area that was Pebble Creek. That's the two areas that would be split between College Hills and South Knoll in the current plans that we're showing. That little purple place goes to Spring Creek currently. Right now we have them going to Forest Ridge in Plan 5, but I actually have them going to South Knoll in Plan 6 that you're going to look at. There's a group of homes over there that are the Forest Ridge area, and then that pink that you're looking at is Creekview. Now those are largely populated areas in a sense that there might be 50 elementary students in some of those areas because you're talking about apartment complexes. And I do want to point out that in the past, the reason why some of these adjustments were made is to get those kids on a bus and provide transportation. You can kind of see they're within that 2 mile on most of those. If they do not cross over a hazardous road and they're within 2 miles, then they don't receive bus transportation. So I just kind of want to point out the reasons for some of those from the past in case that's something you want us to consider. Okay, so what we did with Plan 6 is kind of look at some of the adjustments. You can kind of look at the numbers, they balance out. Where you see a little bit of yellow is Pebble Creek. And why we see yellow in Pebble Creek is because we've got that Southern Point neighborhood there that has the possibility of growing. Like was mentioned earlier, there could be possibly of 2,000 homes. Typically when you see 2,000 homes, you see an elementary school by the time that you get all the kids in there. A 2,000 home addition equals an elementary school. So that's something that our district would continue to monitor. So we kind of take that in consideration with Plan 6. What we did is took that group, that area, and I'm going to kind of show you. I don't have high density maps yet from our demographers. We kind of worked on this and they're working to provide those, and we'll put that on the website. So let me just kind of go through the plan and see if you guys can follow with me. With Plan 6, we're going to keep College Hills where it was. We'll keep South Knoll where it was, but that green area there that was going down to Forest Ridge would go to South Knoll. That just kind of touches on some of the comments that I heard. Let's don't cross elementary schools to get to other areas. Let's keep kids off the buses as much as possible, meaning long bus rides when they have to travel from one side of the district to the other. So that campus would go to South Knoll. This little pocket here, when I talk to the transportation department, that's actually crossing a railroad track. And we try not to do that as much as possible because when you get on a bus and you move kids across a railroad track, there's just extra precautions that you have to do. So it's kind of safer to keep kids on one side or the other if all possible. So with that being said, there's not enough kids in that little area to make that adjustment for that purpose. And so what we did is just took those kids back to Spring Creek Elementary School. So we would leave them where they're at. The next area is this area here that you see that was spoken earlier tonight, the William D. Parkway. That purple area would go back to Pebble Creek Elementary School. Now, all the area on the opposite side of I think that is, well, it's kind of a line, but you can kind of look where it splits with Rock Prairie Road that is crossing over Highway 6, which is the Midtown Reserve area. It would stay in Creekview Elementary because we have to get those numbers up. This area that you're looking at here, which is going across Highway 6, I heard a lot of comments about those kids are going to be in different elementary, then they're going to go to an intermediate, so basically what we've done here is taken that group and taken them back to Pebble Creek. And so those are your, yes ma'am. Okay. So does everybody understand where this area is? Okay. And then what we did to try to balance out Forest Ridge Elementary is took that little area there that is basically Decatur Road, between Decatur Road and Highway 6, take those students into Forest Ridge Elementary School for transportation and all purposes. It makes really good sense to get those kids down to that area because I've got to actually put kids at Forest Ridge Elementary to balance out boundaries. In addition to that, we looked at the Greens Prairie Reserve area for Forest Ridge Elementary School to be able to grow that district. And then again, one of the comments was you can't drive past an elementary school to get to another one. Those students drive past Forest Ridge to get to Pebble Creek. To get to Greens Prairie. And so those students would be rerouted to Forest Ridge Elementary School. Southwood Valley Elementary School, to be able to make these switches and pull that green pocket into South Knoll, I've got to free up space at South Knoll to do that. And so if you look at that area, that is Rain Tree Road. If you can kind of follow that section there at the top of the presentation, as well as that purple section would go to Southwood Valley Elementary School.
So it looks like you're this is one, and again, we all come with this with our areas that we know well, which is one of the reasons we're having this discussion. This is taking from the Foxfire area down here in the pink and moving it to
Creekview.
But you're taking it from Southwood Valley, and then you swap this swaps Raintree and moves them to Southwood Valley.
Mm-hmm. And it's because
having to move two areas, although I understood the reasoning just that one is closer.
Yes, Because when you balance those kids out, so you're taking those big sections that were Pebble Creek and you're moving them out of Pebble Creek because you've got to free up space in Pebble Creek. And then you've got that other section, that green section, that was actually at a different campus as well. You've got to free up space there. When you do that, I get too many kids in College Hills Elementary School and too many kids in South Knoll. And so what you really want to take into consideration, and yes, those neighborhoods are somewhat aging out, and as we grow, the university grows, I feel like you're probably going to have more college kids here. So if you can look at the demographics in those areas, we do start to decline. But at the beginning, and there are unknowns with that, but when you look at the kid makeup now, if you take our current kids and put them into those different boundaries, those numbers are too high. Those are Title I campuses, and you don't want to get them, that would be our largest campuses. And so that's the reason for the shift. I've got to free up space at College Hills, and then the next campus underneath College Hills, basically, you've got South Knoll and Southwood Valley.
But I guess the point that I'm making is that it seems like, you know, we're in this plan, we're actually moving kids from one elementary down to another. I mean, it's like a trickle effect. So we're actually moving kids, okay, from 3 schools instead of just going directly from one to another, if that makes sense.
And it goes back to where you have College Hills, and you take a huge section out of College Hills that was going to Pebble Creek and other school campuses, okay? So they were going far north. So they were crossing over all of these campuses to get to the campus that is the further south campus. Yeah, there was a large amount. In that little green section, there's 50 elementary kids in that area, and there's more than that in the other section. So basically when that happens, I can't just take the kids further north, cross over, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
It's kind of a domino effect, yes. Yes, it does affect more kids, but hopefully once we make this switch, that this plan will last for a good 10 years, you know, 8 to 10 years. It just depends on how fast Pebble Creek grows and then some of those other areas. But when I show you the numbers, you can kind of look at those numbers and you see where there's room there. That's our areas that are growing. Okay, so it kind of sets us up to kind of be prepared for the future. And yes, we don't know about vouchers. We don't know about those things, but I think College Station's going to grow. We have a great education system here, and I think we need to be proud of what we're doing. Okay.
Agree with that. Okay,
Okay, so the other thing here is when you look at this plan, we relieved some of South Knoll again because of the fact that we had to make space for that green section. And to do that, we looked at Holloman, went north of Holloman, and pulled those into River Bend. So that whole section, when you're busing those kids, you're going to bus them to River Bend. And then you can look at that Southgate apartment complex. That's that little section that was carved out before that was, I think, hot pink, moved to a different campus. That would actually go to River Bend. So that whole group of kids would then go to River Bend. This is Plan 7. There's just one little tweak in this plan here, and it's to kind of help relieve. It puts more kids in Greens Prairie and relieves some of River Bend, but it's just this section right here because these kids are so close to Greens Prairie Elementary School, but then we take them to River Bend. However, because they're so close to Greens Prairie, and if we have space there, it might be a good time to go ahead and make that move. And it's southeast of Coffee Bridge Road. This is something I want to point out, and then I want to talk to you really quickly about how Title I works. Okay, so the district gets funding based on total economically disadvantaged students. And then we look at highest need campuses to lowest need campuses. But we only fund the Title I campuses, and we fund all Title I campuses here if they're 40% or higher. Okay, so if they have 40% free and reduced kids or higher, we go ahead and fund them. You can skip your secondary if you want to. You can do other things, but here at College Station, we take care of all of them. Okay. What you legally have to do is make sure your highest need campus is funded more per student than your lowest need campus. So your College Hills is your highest campus. Therefore, they have to get more per economically disadvantaged kid than your lowest campus. Okay. Here at College Station, what we do is we
More per kid, but more.
more per economically disadvantaged kid. Okay. It's more per economically disadvantaged kids. So basically, if I've got 400 economically disadvantaged kids at College Hills and our number is $508 per kid, they're going to get 508 times the economically disadvantaged kids on that campus. Okay. And then you have to rank them that away, and you have to ensure that your highest need campus gets the same amount or more than your lowest need campus. Here at College Station, we do, right now, I think it's $508 per student, and we give it to every campus the same exact. So if you start moving kids around, that's just going to be less funding on that campus because they'll have less students. Does that make sense? Okay. So you can kind of see what it does to our economically disadvantaged kids. The positive is every Title I campus that we currently have would currently be a Title I campus after the adjustments are made. Does that make sense? There's not huge adjustments to the percentages other than if you look at Pebble Creek Elementary School, they drop tremendously because they're losing those students that are up in the College Hills area and we're taking them to Pebble Creek. The other ones can move as much as 9%, but I don't see a big adjustment past 9%. Y'all ready for me to move on?
So, thank you for explaining that. That was my question from last time is, if I look at the current numbers, a campus like College Hills does get more of that title, a bigger percentage of the Title I funds than, say, even than Creekview, right below it, right? It gets a bigger percentage. And of course, Forest Ridge and again, the current gets no Title I funds, right? Even if they have some low SES, they obviously have some. And I guess a couple of schools get worse with, and I don't mean worse, a higher low SES, which it just brings different needs to that campus. So yes, they're going to end up getting more money, that's what you're saying. So that's a positive. And my question before still kind of remains, and maybe this is really a question for the administration, for the campus administration. Is that enough money to differentiate, to really be able to serve the needs of that campus? Is it really the right way for us to make a decision to balance these campuses? And I don't really love that it's making it worse, and even worse than
Clarify, what is it?
making a bigger,
worse?
more disparate between our campuses. And I guess what I'm kind of asking, is that really, or do we feel confident that that's not going to be a problem on some of those campuses? On a campus like, it's not huge, but say College Hills, who is currently at 73, are the biggest percentage of low SES, which I know that they have a lot of good things in that campus to meet the needs of all those students, but I also know that in some ways it's a bigger and different struggle, right? It's just, if we add even more to their, a bigger number, not hugely, but, go to the 77.6, which is on here, are we going to be able to continue? Is that a positive for overall for all of our students? That's really what I'm asking.
I think I said it.
Yeah, I don't.
Go ahead.
I don't see it as a negative at all. I mean, you're talking a few percentage points. I was a Title I elementary principal, so whether I had 55% economically disadvantaged children or 65%, it didn't matter. I got 10% more money, but kids are kids. And to me, these numbers, people make a really big deal out of, some people, of the title and this, and I don't see it. You know, I can tell you right now, our three biggest gainers that we'll recognize next Friday on Star Scores for 25 Title I campuses, three of them, double-digit gains. So kids are kids, teachers love kids. These kids can achieve at whatever expectations we have, and the title funds are tremendous, a huge asset. You're talking about moving a few percentage points with kids, the money and all, it's not much, it's not much wasted. Pebble drops, but Pebble's not titled. So to me, it's all in how you view. I don't view have and have nots. I view kids, we view resources. And does the title do it? Yeah. And if we felt like the title funds weren't, then it's our job to give them more money. I mean, plain and simple, whatever we feel like that they need in order for them to be successful, that's our job to bridge that gap.
I appreciate hearing that. That's kind of the answer to me, that I mean, the way the district should approach it. Again, I still think there are some other benefits to some balance and diversity on our campuses, but obviously, as a district, we need to meet the needs of every kid on whichever campus they are, and we will.
I think I said it in the meeting. I think I said it in the meeting in July that whatever movement happens, I mean, we're not seeing it here, but if a campus lost their Title I funding because things changed, that could be more problematic, yeah. But I mean, in this case, if we've got Title I and what you said, none of our Title Is are going to change. They're all going to remain Title I. If anything, the dollar amounts will change, which then we charge the district and challenge them to say, okay, if College Hills went up 4%, if River Bend went up 9%, then make sure that we have the staffing and all that situated to handle whatever that looks like. And we got affirmations that that was going to be, that's how we're going to look at it. So I know we kind of ran through the Plan 5, Plan 6, Plan 7. I really like Plan 7. It's got the least amount of, I guess, movement on anything as far as just affecting the lowest number of kids as far as movement. But it makes sense just on, I can see on these numbers, I see where that can make sense just based on current to Plan 7. So
We'll tell you also, with Heather coming in, and I'll brag on her for a second, she's done a great job of working with our administrators and principals on, that's one thing as a former campus principal, when I showed up, nobody talked to me about the budget. Like, here's your money, figure out what you want to do with it. She's been very intentional with working with them on how to build a budget, how to be strategic with how you're using your funds. We have not done, just be fully transparent, a great job as a district at the campus level of budgeting those title funds in an effective manner to impact student instruction. And we've identified that as an area of need and working with campus principals of how to be more effective. And Panay and her team, as well as Heather, will be monitoring and pointing how we're spending these funds throughout the year. So if we feel like a campus is falling behind, then hey, we need to get, what's the plan? And, you know, because we can only carry 15% of title funds at the end of the year back over. And we've been in a position because of a lack of monitoring, we've been losing some of those funds, and that's unacceptable, and that's not going to happen anymore. And so our campus principals, in my opinion, have more support of how to more effectively budget, and these funds will have a dramatic impact on student achievement.
So I think it's hard to look at these numbers a little bit sometimes, but I do, when I just sit and kind of process them, want to point out and kind of remind us all that we're not talking about huge shifts. And if we were to go and try to even everything out, we're talking about major zoning shifts that would have to happen to like make these numbers shift a whole lot. And I'm not really sure that that's what anybody really wants to do when we're talking about trying to keep kids into, these are elementary schools now, not middles, not high schools or anything like that. Keeping the kids a little bit closer to their home, a little bit more in their neighborhoods. Like, I mean, I know it's hard sometimes to look at these numbers, but keeping in perspective what it would take as a district for those to be even would just be a great upheaval in our community. Instead, the other option is for us to pour resources and help those campuses that need it most in all different ways, not just for low SES students. I mean, I'm going to be honest, as I look at the two new plans, the one little bit of sticking point that I have is that when we look at Plan 6 and 7, I think I wrote it down correctly. Like these zones are going to roll out for a year 26, starting in 26. And it looked to me by 3 years later, we have the potential for Pebble Creek to be over capacity. And that is the one sticking point that I kind of look at as a board member is if we're going to go through this process right now, and I know there's uncertainty about numbers, and I know we don't know, but we see some parts of Pebble Creek that have growing neighborhoods in them. I'm just going to be honest. That's my one little bit of sticking point with Plan 6 and 7 is that it looks like we could be in a place where we haven't quite helped Pebble Creek for the long run. So I don't know that there's a simple answer to that, but that's just the one little bit of thing that I notice about those.
I talked to a couple of administrators at some of these campuses that would get an increase in some of these kids, and they're ready for the challenge. They're ready to love on these kids, welcome them. They feel like the district will support them and get them the staffing they need to be able to take the increased numbers. I agree with Ms. Iggy, but I also think this is the least disruptive for what we know now and working on actuals versus what could happen in a few years. I like Plan 7 because I think, like Jeff said, it's the most disruptive to the communities right now.
Least disruptive.
Well, I'd be real careful.
Okay, go ahead.
I did not say that.
I'd be real careful using the word worse for any of these. I would
Right.
send my kids to any school in this district.
Yep.
I have no problem. I don't care where they go. I would see success in my kids and comfortable sending them anywhere. So I'd be real cautious using that term when you're talking about some movement because that's not we're not gonna worsen the school. We might change funding a little bit, but the school doesn't get worse.
No, and I mean, really, just changing this SES numbers and understanding what if that changes the needs at that campus or not, and having that discussion. I would, as far as the impact, I kind of worried to ask, we haven't, with any of these, have you shown us the actual number of students or that move? Because I know in some campuses, there's some in and out, is that true, or is it as simple as doing the math on
I mean, we
figuring
can
out
show
how
you,
many actually move in each of these plans? Like I was saying earlier, it seemed like with 5 and 6 and 7 compared to the other two elementary, we had that domino, and are we moving and impacting more kids with one of these plans than another, you know, and that's, because I would like to minimize impact too, so as you said.
so the first time I presented, we did show the current plan. I didn't pull those back into the PowerPoint, but I can grab that information and get that over to you.
But I guess I'm asking, can I look at I can't look at those total numbers because there are some ins and outs of schools. Is that true?
That's true.
Yeah, so.
Total numbers wouldn't be accurate anyway if the board decides to grandfather in certain grade levels. So it wouldn't be now children that were grandfathered in depending on the parameters that the board comes up with. And I would like to have that discussion with you guys in September. They would have to provide their own transportation, but they would be able to stay at that campus until they aged out. How I've done things in the past, if they have a younger sibling, that child could also age out through that progression if the parents wanted them to. So there are some grandfathering in that I think is successful. It helps some folks' appetite that the child won't have to, move, whether it's K-4, whatever that particular deal is. That's some conversations that I think are warranted that I'd like to have in September, and potentially, depending on numbers, we'll evaluate numbers by September. Numbers will be pretty hard for 25-26 school year, at least through the first part of the year. Balance those, or look at current demographer numbers. How do they stack up? If there's no one-offs, then I think these zones are pretty much getting close to being fine-tuned, and potentially may ask for board approval in September so we can move on with the process.
Well, and I appreciate, coming back with Plan 6 and 7. That's all new to everybody because of feedback that we got from community members, y'all talking, looking at it, and actually putting together. And that's what this process is. It's not, oh, we're going to look at 135 or 145 or whatever. Okay, we've looked at 145 and those look good, but here's some feedback, and so here we have Plan 6 and 7, which, I appreciate y'all doing that because it does open our eyes to there's so many options. It's almost like Sonic drinks. You're never going to get to the end of what you could do. So that's kind of how I look at all that. And so that's what's been interesting just to kind of see. Hmm. Yeah. And before Heather gets in, one thing that we need to have some direction today on as you kind of look through these. That way we can fine tune and kind of get closer to a final product for intermediate and middle school. Is the even distribution of economically disadvantaged kids the most important thing in making this decision, or the balancing of the campuses? Is it kind of because the feedback we're getting from a lot of community members, we're paying attention to. They've got some real concerns that uh, they're valid, and I think we've got to take into consideration. I think in the new one that Heather's going to show you, I guess is it 5, Heather? It does take in a lot of our community feedback and makes adjustments. It still kind of distributes the enrollment, which is a deal that we want to look at. But the EcoDis number, we're not getting within that 15% number. But one of the plans also, Cy Grove drops from a title campus out. Obviously, we'd prefer that not to happen. So I think the newest plan, they would increase by 6 or 7%.
And Dr. Harkarter, that was a great point that I meant to make just a second ago. When you look at these numbers, again, that 40% is the mark. Right now, College Station and A&M Consolidated both receive Title I funds. With Plan 4, College Station would no longer receive those funds. And then, of course, Welborn never did. And then if you look back at the next plan here, Cypress Grove would lose their Title I funds. Oakwood would keep them. Does that make sense? If Plan 5, those two campuses would keep their Title I funds. Okay, so when you look at Plan 5, basically what we did is kind of looked at it in a sense of what's easiest for transportation, what's easiest for movement of kids. And so what we did is we went to the north of the district and kind of look at some different pockets. It balances out your numbers at the bottom down there. You can kind of see those balances of students a little bit better. And then, of course, this is your middle school boundary. I kind of blew it up. It's going to be hard to notice, but I thought this was the best way to explain it. The yellow area, if you guys can just picture where Welborn is, that's going to be your easiest access. If you look at the Welborn Street and kind of move over the area east of Welborn Road up to current boundaries would go to Cypress Grove and College Station Middle School. And then the area south of Holloman that's currently in Oakwood would go to Cypress Grove and College Station Middle School. That would free up space at both your Oakwood as well as your Pecan Trail. It's going to be your least impactful of moving those students around, but like I said, it doesn't help us with free and reduced numbers. One thing I do want to mention, because I think a lot of things have come up with the movement of Castlegate. When you look at having to balance out your free and reduced numbers, you're looking at trying to find a neighborhood that is least impactful for the entire district. And so when you look at Castlegate, there's actually around 100 students in 5th and 6th grade and close to the same amount in 7th and 8th grade. And then they kind of help move the numbers. Does that make sense? When you go, because I've heard people say, why don't pick up Greens Prairie Reserve or Nantucket? There's not a lot of kids. There's not a lot of junior high kids there. There's not a lot of intermediate kids. It's not going to move the mark. And then I've heard like Mission Ranch. Surprisingly enough, there's not a lot of kids in Mission Ranch right now in those grade levels. Now, will they be there eventually? Probably so, because those young kids are going to get older, and then they're going to be our intermediate and junior high kids. But right now, there's not enough kids in those neighborhoods to move the mark. And so that's kind of why the demographer looked at that Castlegate area. If that's what our interest is, then that's the reasoning behind it. And we felt like those kids were closest to the Cy Grove. I do understand that there is some transportation congestion in the move, but just the reasoning behind it. Okay, so we kind of want to continue to review feedback, and we kind of need your thoughts on the intermediate boundaries. Is there something I could back up to that you would like to look at, or
No, I
any
think
thoughts?
the one thing, and I think Dr. Harkrider said it, the board policy piece of it is really something that we're going to have to take into consideration. Are we going to continue along with that, or are we going to say, no, we're going to do away with the whole balancing of the intermediate and middle schools? I think Ms. Ege has brought up a great point in a prior meeting about the intermediate and middle school. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. But I believe you mentioned about it with some of these moves, it creates opportunities for kids in extracurriculars where it doesn't stack on one middle school and kids are getting cut or not making it, or not making band or this and that. And now if they're moving to this school, well, those extracurriculars were already behind. They couldn't even field some of it. So I think that's a big piece that I've really liked. I like Plan 5 on here, what you were showing there. Obviously, we've talked about going out of district down the road in another year or so. I mean, I just kind of wrote down here Plan 5 for intermediate, Plan 5 for middle school, just based on that. But then I also put the caveat of no action. We don't do anything. We leave it alone, and we see how this out of district transfer stuff goes down the road and all that. So I just kind of want to paint the picture of things we're discussing, and obviously the balancing of the intermediate and middle school is probably the biggest one. I will say, and y'all can get these because we get so much feedback. If you've got friends in a subdivision, whether you're Castlegate, whether you're Nantucket, Indian Lakes, Pebble Creek, Mission Ranch, or something like that, and you have friends that live in other subdivisions, just know they've thrown y'all all under the bus. Mission Ranch has said, just do it to Castlegate, leave us alone. Castlegate told us to do it to Indian Lakes. We don't care. So I'm just telling you, if you got friends in these neighborhoods, you might go, hey, what'd you say in that survey? But just because we've read some stuff and I'm like, whoa, you get crazy on some of that. So, but I appreciate y'all navigating this, kind of like what I said on the elementary. Here we go, another plan that we didn't know about that's been presented, hopefully to kind of resolve or at least kind of move us down the road.
And the board is within board policy. The policy states we are supposed to bring you the data points, and you have it. It does not say you have to take action on that data. And so board policies has been followed. You have the information. And I think we're kind of positioned now. We can really kind of fine tune.
Can you put 5 back
Where
up
we wanna
there
go?
while we're talking? Do you mind?
Yes, ma'am.
And 5 doesn't move Castlegate, right? Or
Correct.
Nantucket?
Correct.
How close do we get to AMCMS and Oakwood with that part that we would then pull down to CSMS and Cy Grove? Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's hard to see a little
You
bit.
can kind of You can see there are little stars up at the very top of your screen. You can see AMCS. And then where that Timber Academy, the M on that Timber Academy, that's Holloman. And like I said, I apologize that I don't have high density maps yet that are the right colors that I can blow up and show you streets. We'll get that out to you as soon as we get it from the demographers.
Am I hearing you say that you don't want to lose Title I funds at some of these schools? I mean, is that still a thing? Because on some of
Say
those
that again, Em?
plans, some of
Right.
those plans, we lose it. So
Correct,
we
yeah.
don't want to lose still, like we talked about with the elementary. So we do want to keep those campuses
100%, that would be
receiving
our
their
preference.
funds.
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. 5, they all would keep their funds. Yes,
Okay.
sir. All, yeah.
And I do think that's one of my struggles that, you know, and I don't even remember the previous board talking about that when they put the policy about if one of the campuses potentially losing the benefits of Title I, even though they would be close to it. But in general, and as I said, you know, I struggle a little bit with the disparity at the elementary level, and I think it's even more of an issue to consider as we get to the higher grades. Was one, because it should be a little bit easier to balance the SES numbers, because, you know, we can move whole elementaries, you can move bigger chunks with still having kind of contiguous to a school. I said it last time too, and I think, and again, many in here have said it, the benefits and the balance that we've seen at our high schools because we do this, that we've seen across academics and fine arts and sports, to be able to have two just amazing high schools. And I know that's certainly not everything, the socioeconomic balance, but I personally believe that it is an important piece that helps both of those campuses thrive and be successful in so many things. So I am struggling between the fact of losing a Title I, but potentially losing a Title I campus, but also getting the socioeconomic balance more equal.
What title are we going to lose?
Well, I said with the other plans, you would lose,
Potentially, yeah.
potentially
You went on
lose,
one of
right,
those.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
I think in the end, though,
once
one
we get
thing,
closer.
yeah, to keep in mind, I agree with you on the 2 high schools. I mean, their success speaks for themselves. But if you look at elementary, intermediate, and the middle school, there's not balance there now. So the changes don't
they're
really
not
disrupt
competitive
that.
right now, though.
I'm going to argue with that. Wait till you see the scores Wednesday. They are much more
But
competitive.
not just academics. I mean, so I know it's not just academics, but I think there's some other, we talked about this last time, some of the
Some of it
effects of
at
the
College Station Middle and participation, it's numbers. They don't have as many kids. And so you balance the numbers. You know, Plan 5 is going to balance the numbers a little bit. Out of district transfers potentially would be an option to balance numbers as well.
I mean, if we're talking about the higher SES schools not being as competitive, we've personally walked those on tours. And those funds that those principals and APs and administrators are utilizing are making those campuses really unstoppable. I mean, Riverbend, College Hills, they're doing really great things. So I think them getting more SES kids, they're only going to be able to use those funds more creatively. So.
Plan 7 does not, all the title stays the same, Plan 7 with the elementaries, and the Plan 5's titles stay the same. In College Station, we get a little bit more balance with Plan 5 with the middle schools.
Yeah, the kids are a little bit more balanced. Title stays the same. Elementary, all titles stay the same. A few percentage movements, some up, some down. But they would keep their status.
And I do agree with your examples. I mean, I do think it is different in my mind with the elementaries between, I think the older you get, because you are involved in more, some of the extracurricular, some of the other things too, you know, so where do you draw that line? Like, I mean, I think the middle schools really do they feed, kids are really starting to get involved in the programs that they're going to be in high school, right? So that's my kind of question again, where do we draw Draw that line.
Well, and that's why I've been a proponent of, we should do something to even out attendance. You know, whether we're looking at the SES numbers or not is a different question. But one of the things that, you know, I've had a couple phone calls about and just observed as a parent is that those differences in attendance numbers feed into the things you're talking about, not necessarily academics, because we can have high academics at a school of any size, but at the middle school level, when they start having activities, and you might have one school that, you know, kids are getting cut because we just have so many kids, and another that, you know, has a lot more opportunities because they don't have as many kids. So for me, it could be a plus for the type kids that we're talking about to go to a school that has those opportunities available to them. So, you know, I think it's a hard thing because there's two different questions. One is a question of attendance and one is a question of SES numbers.
Anything else? Ms. Wilson?
Sorry, you mentioned when you were talking about other options for middle school moves, because of some of, and you mentioned actual numbers that are like in Nantucket and so forth, but, and that the middle school for like Mission Ranch, because that has been the other one that's come up. I mean, obviously those kids you said are not in middle school or intermediate now, but there's a lot of elementary kids there. Do we know how many elementary kids, like, how many would be there in a couple of years into the intermediates, you know, because there is the part about if this is we, in the past, and now I think in this discussion, we've looked at neighborhoods that are growing, trying not to move necessarily as an existing neighborhood as much, but a neighborhood that is up and coming and growing. And so to me, you know, saying those intermediate middle school kids are coming, that might be the perfect place to move, because they haven't really had a lot at those grade levels yet. They wouldn't be actually picking up and moving as many kids.
They would
that are
be,
currently
they
there.
would be in some of those numbers as you go age on out in the intermediate and middle, depending on what grades there are. Those kids in those areas are part of those numbers that are up there now in their particular feeders.
So how many would be moving if they were moved and into the College Station Middle School, Cypress Grove, boundaries? Do we know how many kids we'd be looking at in a couple of years for that? You said 100 and or not that many from.
Yes, so when the demographer does this, he has all of the numbers of the kids, so he starts with K, first, second, third, and then that's what makes up these continual numbers. And then he tries to estimate the growth in the area. So that's why you see where you've got a big pocket, 24, 25. If you looked at, I've got a big 8th grade group right now that's about to go to the high schools. Do you see that? The next year, 25, 26, if you're looking at this area, you're only going to have 731. That just means basically that I have a smaller grade level in there, and then you can kind of look. All of those are taken into that account. Yes, I do have those numbers, so I do know how many kids are currently in Mission Ranch. Sorry, I don't have them with me right now, but I do have them on my desk. I can get you that information.
It's because proximity-wise and growth-wise.
I ain't gonna die on that hill.
I was expecting maybe that would be one we would have considered.
I'm not gonna die on that hill.
I know, sorry.
I'm not dying on that hill, sorry. Sorry.
You mentioned a lot. It's been one that's been thrown back and
Well,
forth.
but that's
as well.
more for elementary than the middle and intermediate, but, you know, and I mean, Mission Ranch is kind of elementary, it makes sense. They got a neighborhood school right there at River Bend. As far as the other, no matter what, they've got to cross a railroad track, so.
Yeah, they have to travel,
there's no-
exactly.
yeah, There's no ifs, ands, or buts, but I think based on what Ms. Wilson said about, you know, the 24, 25 8th grade class was 676, 648, and 782, and then you flip it to what the 8th grade class possibly, or, you know, why there's a decrease on, so Wellborn 782, not 8th grade class, sorry, but Wellborn's got 782, but then next year, this coming school year, they're down to 731.
Well, I do have a question about that. So when we look at Plan 5, because this is not current, is this telling us what it would be if we were doing Plan 5 right now, or is this telling us what we think our numbers are for?
So
Like-
it just takes our current 24, 25 kids and puts them into the plan, but then that.
Right, so like when we look back, it wasn't that Wellborn had 782 kids last year. I'm trying,
Right.
It's
It
what
was
it
not.
would have been if we
If
had been
the
under Plan
plans were
5. Okay,
moved.
that's,
So
But Wellborn includes Mission Ranch.
it includes Mission Ranch, but it also, based on Plan 5, it also included that space that you're moving to College Station Middle.
Yes, sir.
So, okay. That makes sense. Any other questions? All right, we appreciate y'all working on that. That'll bring us to
And-
E.
Can I say one thing? I think it's really important that we talk about the grandfathering sooner, rather than later. I think I've got a lot of questions about,
Well, we gotta figure out the plan first.
I guess
And
that's,
we
yeah,
can't-
that,
Not first, excuse me. We need to figure out which kind of plan is we're leaning towards. And then I think the grandfathering, as far as what Tim had in mind, is gonna come out. It's gonna make sense. But yeah, I agree with you. But it's kind of hard to say if we don't know really what plan we're kind of,
because we want to have some of the numbers behind what the impact of the different grandfathering. So I just want to make that clear too. I mean, it's not that that's why we're putting it off, so we can actually have some data on some of the different plans, right? I mean, I'm with you, so I'm for generous grandfathering too, but we have to understand the impacts of it.
To offer grandfathering for parents to go ahead and sign up for that, because they're all not going to do it. If they have to have transportation and they're currently being bused and now they're not, then they're not going to take that. So we would have like let's say a 6-week window where parents would be able to let a campus know, hey, I want my child to be grandfathered in, and we may have a sibling here, whatever that is. So then we would have hard numbers later this fall of what we have projected enrollments for 26, 27, based on the grandfathering piece.
all right, that'll bring us to E, adjourn. Thank y'all for being here.